we are, let's say, midway in our, let's say, VDC, virtual design conversations as such. We will momentarily go to the next speaker. Maybe Lanea can come, and if she wants to make some announcement, she will come in and try to let you know something more if you are not already gone for a bio break or getting your coffee. By the way, if you're drinking coffee like me, like crazy, cheers. But I think when Carla was talking about the mobility world, it means right now, especially in the COVID world, I need my vehicles to be not only autonomous, but a little bit more, let's say, robotics influenced also. Means right now, kids are at home and we still have to let them go around the subdivision, pick them up, and all those things. And if we had literally had these autonomous cars and we can program them, like go to Nathan's house, Steve's house, Andy's house, and then come back and they can do it together, it will be pretty interesting because yes, my kids are still pretty small, so to let them go all alone on the bike all the way across the subdivision. But the always thought comes in mind. I do not know how many of you have seen the movie Panic Room, but some of the expensive houses I hear in California always has a panic room where if something happens, somebody is trying to attempt to burglar your house or come in, or you feel threatened, you just go into that panic room, hit the button, and you are safe. You have 911 calls, you have video cameras, maybe you have guns, maybe you have flares, you have food bars, cereal bars. So panic room concept is pretty interesting. But how I think about the next elements of mobility is, why can't this autonomous car eventually that will be in the garage be a panic room also, right? Means I would always be there in the kids when they're in the playing by themselves in the backyard. But if the vehicle is there on the driveway and the vehicles have 360 degrees cameras inside and outside, they actually know what's happening. And can just tell the kid, we only tell them right now, stranger, danger, shout. Shouting helps, I do not know. But if they see something, just go to the car, go inside and hit that red emergency button. The car will take you to the safest place. The car will take you to the next police station if we are not nearby. So there might be so many other things where it can be autonomous. It can be used as a sentry, as a sentinel, kind of an, not even a butler, right? Because butler might not be that strong, but here the vehicle can save you in cases of, let's say, the kids are there with a babysitter and something happens to the house. Maybe a fire breaks out. Just run into the vehicle, press emergency. The car will crash through the garage door and come out if the electricity has gone down or something. The car will be, I would say, a pretty good panic room to have, or just a butler to have. So I'm still with this COVID things, no matter what, but eventually the promise of not just the Jetsons, as Carla was saying, that's one element of the UAM, urban air mobility, but even the vehicles helping us in our everyday lifestyles. It's just going to be phenomenal help in saving and giving us more time. So as she was saying, time is a gift. We have to appreciate that. And having said that, I know Ben is still patiently waiting there, but Lanea, a couple of announcements.
Yeah, sure. I can just go real quick here. So let me share my screen with y'all. I just wanted to let you all know about a couple of resources that we have on our website that you might love to take advantage of. So what I'm sharing right now is our resource library on our website. If you just go to Sundberg-Ferar.com and then click on the top here where it says library, we have tons of articles and resources here on everything from how to respond with design thinking in the pandemic to design thinking for startups, principles of effective UI design, and the list goes on and on and on. So that's available for you. And also I wanted to share that we also, like I said earlier, we're on YouTube. And if you subscribe to our channel on YouTube, you will be able to watch all of our videos from previous virtual design conversations or GVAC's Tonight Show that we have been hosting throughout the summer. So definitely check it out. There are tons of interesting insights and stuff on here from thought leaders from all over our nation. So it's a really great resource. I will pause myself right there just so we can not get too far behind here and move on to the next speaker, unless there's anything else, GVAC, that you want me to show them.
No, that was
Okay.
that was good, and thanks again, and thanks everybody for your patience for that shameless plug of what we do. But we believe these are some inspirational articles, inspirational or motivational things that we learn around from our entire studio. That's what you get from going to any studio, right? The collective wisdom of the team over there, especially who are bringing in this assorted kind of an experiences back to you. So thanks again for that, Lanea. It's sometimes nice to see the entire our SF YouTube channel in what has been done. So it's fun. Anyway, Ben, I see you there with your amazing patience over there. You want to? Yes, there you are. How are you doing, sir?
I'm great. How are you?
Oh my God, so far so good. Just waiting patiently to make sure. Welcome, Ben. So now the moment I was looking forward to is finally here.
Oh man, I'm probably about more nervous than you are excited.
Don't worry, it's not showing on the face, so everything is good. I like the backdrop over there, man, and we can go and jump into that. Uh, Ben, you are an outdoors person also, right? I think you were just on the Outer Banks enjoying time in nature. Is nature the common theme today for everybody?
Definitely for our house. I mean, we love kind of getting out and staying busy, especially with 3 kids. You know, you can't stay in the house all the time, or else life gets a little bit insane.
Little bit insane. I only have 2 kids, and I'm completely on the other side as such. Ben, I have to ask you, what do you do for fun? You have so many things as such, but what makes you? What's your? Explain a little bit more about your personal and personality.
Yeah, there's a few things that I do. I mean, being out is a lot of fun. So my son and I, we've done a couple backpacking trips. My family just enjoys getting out and being around. It's either the beach or the mountains. And Anderson, South Carolina, gives us that great blessing of having both options really close. If I'm not drawing power tools, I'm drawing cartoons. So I spent a lot of time cartooning. I spent 4.5 years kind of cartooning for my church. I was a creative director to help with their children's curriculum and illustrating Bible stories and fun series and ways that we could teach kids. My children are awesome and fun, so I spend a lot of time with them. I do a lot of building. We're renovating right now a house. You'll see a lot of that in this presentation on just how the kids have been involved in this process and the lessons we're trying to learn and teach through that. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to travel more, but obviously in this COVID season, we just really enjoying this time being home and then having that time to spend more with kids. I mean, this morning it was funny because it was like 9 o'clock and I'm on a call and I have my daughter standing on my feet and we're just kind of dancing in the room while I'm talking on the phone to the other designers, and I'm sitting here going, man, I couldn't have done this, 6 months ago. So there's a lot of that part of the conversation in here as well.
I like that perspective. I knew about you. You're an outdoors person. You're a hands-on tool designer, but I never knew about cartoons and cartooning. Means that's pretty awesome. So is it means this was you said a little bit earlier. So it was cell animation. So you actually do video cartooning or what?
It's a combination. I guess the best part about kids is they learn in so many different ways. So kind of the blessing of what I got to do was start obviously just basic, just drawing a scene and then animating that scene so that it makes sense while we're telling a story, all the way through to full on animating a character walking around. And it's not that style takes way too much time for the amount of content we were generating, but yeah, so I mean, if I can make it in 3D, my wife and I made some puppets. We're doing some discussion, so basically just creativity in any way. So, but like I said, if I'm not drawing power tools or lawn and garden equipment or whatever, then most of the time I'm drawing people or animals or characters for my kids.
That's pretty interesting, man. I would love to see it sometime. And if it is, if it's in public domain, send us links or something, and then I can send it to the chat or maybe the feedback as such. It will be nice to see says other facets of everybody bringing in. That's pretty amazing. Thank you. I always learn something more of people I think I know. So that's pretty interesting as such too. So let me allow you to take reins of the presentation. Let's go through it, and then we can again chat at the back end and see where we go.
Okay, so you guys can see my screen right now?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. And it is just the white part of the screen with the Techtronic design. Okay, I want to make sure.
And I can see your Swiss bank account in the back and the password also.
Those are all good. All right, so hi everybody. My goal today is to talk a lot about leadership and a lot about parenting and how those kind of intertwine, because I've recently taken on a position in the last 2 years where I've transitioned from being a hardcore doer that I've been training for the last 20 years of my life to do and design products, into now leading a team of people to do do the work for the most part. And there's a lot that I've learned there, and a lot I've learned through with parenting. So I wanted to kind of walk you through that. So I'm hoping that I'll inspire you a little bit, that if you are leaders now, things that you can be doing to grow the people, that next generation below you. Grow yourself, and then obviously if you're getting walking through this process as a young designer and you're being led, things that you can do yourself to become a better leader when the time comes, but also to just, the goal would be that I want everybody to enjoy their jobs and their lives kind of as much as I've been able to and been blessed to for the last 20 years of staying at one job other than a short sabbatical. So we'll walk through that. So I work at a company called TTi here in Anderson, South Carolina. And it's always a fun thing to try to explain to people what it is we do, but probably the easiest thing, let me make sure I'm clicking on the right screen here, is, we design power tools for Ryobi, Rigid, Milwaukee, not here in this facility for the Milwaukee stuff, but all the lawn and garden side. This company is kind of one of those big umbrella corporations that has a litany of brands that we design products for. I got a job here right out of school. I graduated from Auburn University and got an internship here. I was intern number 3 in this newly formed group that was taking over the world. So it was only about 7 of us at the time. And all of this that I'm going to teach you and kind of walk you through is that things that I've just learned from having tremendously amazing leadership above me that saw this kid who didn't have really any major talent, and helped me to grow into who I am today, which hopefully is a good thing. So like I said, designing power tools and staying with designing power tools for as long as I have, the reason why I love it so much is just the opportunity to make products that people interact with every day. I'll tell this to just about anybody, because on all the different group sessions that I go to and everybody's complaining about their job and what they get to do, I normally get to tell them, man, I love every bit about my job because I get to make things. This is great for designers too, is that when you actually get to sketch what it is, CAD model it, and take it all the way through to production, where you can literally walk into the Home Depot and buy it and use it on your own home. There's just so much value and validation of what it is you can do as a creator. And I love the fact that these products that we make literally go in the hands of folks that might have lost their job or want to, as Jivak says, taking this COVID opportunity to try a different path. I want to build homes. I want to renovate. I want to do something. I want to make and create. I want to start a business. We make great products in that vein to allow people to do that. And if you've seen all the statistics, COVID has definitely caused the DIY market and the renovation market to absolutely explode right now, because everybody's home looking at all the products, all the projects that they may never have gotten a chance to do, and saying, hey, it's time to fix those. Primarily, especially with like the lawn business. So I manage right now the outdoor products side with another coworker, Sean Campbell. We have a senior manager above us, but we both lead 5 guys each on this side. So we're really fresh into this idea that we have to learn how to manage and lead and cultivate these guys' careers and their ability to design, not only for ourselves to get products done and to accomplish the goals that the company has, but also just to, our vision is that we want to see these guys become great, and that we want to have an influence in their lives in a way that's beyond just making them a better tactical designer, but also make them, just my vision, to just make them better people too. So, like I said, when I'm not designing products, I'm a parent of 3 amazing children. I have a 3-year-old Lucy Jean on the right, who loves to just get on calls and talk to the guys whenever she can. Beatrix on the left, who's 5. Benjamin's picture will come later. For whatever reason, it didn't like that picture, so it dropped out. But they're just teaching me so much about that, which I know is so fortuitous that the season that I'm in of learning to lead and learning to grow these guys is totally in parallel with also raising children. So one of my primary goals, my wife's primary goals with our kids is to teach them that they have purpose in life, that there's a lot of things that, that they're designed specifically to do something. We want them to make sure that they know they belong, obviously, to our family, but have a strong sense of stability in what it is that they do and where they are in life, and then ultimately to protect them in every way we can to help them to mature in a way that is just healthy, I guess is the best way to describe it. And I feel like that is exactly what it is as a leader. My job is for the guys that I lead, is I want to make sure that when they come to, wake up every morning, that they know that they have a purpose. And it may not necessarily be, oh, I want to make sure that the company meets their numbers, but I have a purpose to develop products that are going to help people with their lives. And to be excited about that, because that's what's going to get them up in the morning to come to work, is that they know that they've got a place that's going to honor their creativity, that's going to encourage their creativity, that's going to help them to grow, that's not going to abuse them. So all of that tied in is that's where I feel like my role as a leader for these guys and what I have experienced over the last 20 years of being with this company. I just want them to feel the same, rather than feeling like, hey, I'm just a hand in this process. So yeah. I wanted to use this as a funny image, because this is like, I think the key of misunderstanding of life, right? That I've been designing my entire life. I've been so trained, and I'm a great designer. They see that, they've recognized it, and oh, now I've arrived. I'm a leader. I'm a manager of people, and so I get to sit back and do the things that I think that someone thinks that I'm, really good at, while I have to tell this other person here to do the work. It's a funny picture, because this guy here on the right, Clint Thackeray, if you've never met him, but he is 100% a servant leader. This is that by far. I had to make sure that I showed him this picture to say, look, I want to use this as a ice-breaking moment, because I think it's so funny, because it literally tells the story that most people think about when it comes to managing. That now I'm managing people, as opposed to I'm serving people. So with Clint, he does that, and Graham is amazing as a designer. So I thought that was just funny. So my goal in this conversation is to help you guys to see that leadership is a stewardship, and all the best kind of leaders who have people that want to follow them choose to serve first, give as much of the credit away to their team as they possibly can, and then when things go wrong, take all the blame, which obviously is a terrible position to be in, and nobody ever wants to be blamed for things. But our job as leaders is to protect these guys so that they have a sense of belonging and a sense of protection. Through that, Sean and I have been trying to learn this skill, because I spent the first, maybe, and a lot of you guys who are older in your career probably know this too, is that you spend the first several years, if not many years of your career, learning all the skills that you never got taught in school, or as it has evolved in, from 2D CAD work, moving into 3D CAD, moving into digital sketching, and, kind of dating myself a little bit. But, my bosses and my directors of the years that I was here allowed me to grow, and there was time to grow. What Sean and I are recognizing is that every one of the guys that we've hired that were interns for the last year with us have all the skills it is that we've that we took years to learn. So they know the CAD, they know the key shot, they know the sketching, they know everything about the tactical skills that I spent probably 4 years of my career learning to do well. So what do we teach them now? So part of what we try to do, and these are the mechanisms that we use at TTi right now for sharing our knowledge, is we do what we can to partner, senior designers, middle level designers, try to target that leadership, mentorship opportunities within the team, and partner these people together so that they can work on the same project. It may still be junior designer Doug over here on the right's project to do this rider, for instance, but he's got Ernest who there in the middle, who's an expert at designing these products, there to just kind of mentor him through that process. And then me as a leader, making sure that I'm setting up the guidelines and the boundaries and the space to allow him to succeed or fail, depending on what the particular designer needs at the time. So that's one of those things that we try to do, is to keep that opportunity of shepherding and discipleship, I guess, in a lot of ways, available to the younger guys, because ultimately that's going to then say, okay, hey, you junior designer, you're really good at this, so why don't you go help this designer? So then, one, we're constantly growing the team and constantly growing that ability to teach, because the more you teach, the better you learn. And for that, we're also hoping that we'll, cultivate that leadership, because I mean, that was ultimately what was given to me, is that I loved mentoring into the interns. I think I mentioned at the beginning, I was intern number 3 of what is now almost a 200 internship program over the last, 10 to 20 years, is that we've just kind of grown. And that's how we kind of keep ourselves fresh and keep the group fresh, is we constantly are pouring into these interns these skills that we have and these things that we've learned. So that's kind of the goal. The goal is that, I can't teach them to do key shot maybe any better than what they do, because they have that skill. But how can I teach them the 20 years worth of sitting in engineering meetings, going in, traveling to China to get to actually watch the manufacturing process, things that they may or may not ever get a chance to do. So with that, we do our best to, make sure that our designers do, teaching sessions where they'll actually walk people through why we did something, what it is that we learned, and how it is that we, how we digest that information and help other people. So this is kind of that idea of shoring up the foundations that some of these kids may not have coming right out of school, is that we want to build their confidence, build their sense of purpose and belonging through, like, hey, your job is now to own your decisions, because at some point you're going to be sitting in a meeting with, the CEO or with a senior vice president of something that wants to know why it is you design something a certain way, or why you feel it needs to go that way. Why should I spend this extra money on this feature when I don't think it's going to sell one more product? So that's, these are those, small environments, as you leaders may know, just those baby steps that you can give them more and more trust and more confidence as they become, future leaders of the design world. A lot of this was kind of really punctuated, and this image here on the left, I wanted to show that every time I've ever looked at this is of a trip that we took to China, where we were, laying out an entire BBL for a product line, and talk the guy in the middle, where everybody is surrounding him, is this is the goal, right? You want to have your people prepared for this moment right here. Doc has spent years developing relationships and trust and, wisdom, that literally he had everybody hanging on his every word of what it is that we needed to do to accomplish the task. And they weren't, thinking he's crazy or off wild, because he cultivated these relationships with all of these teams. And it was just incredible to watch. I mean, I'm the one taking the picture, so I'm just sitting there back going, wow, when am I going to get to do that someday? And it was funny because literally, a day later, I'm sitting in a room and I can't speak any of these languages, but luckily I can draw, and he's taught me well to communicate. I could just sit down and I was drawing and listening to what they had to say, understanding what was going on. And it was just really cool to see them understand and to build that level of respect and trust with those guys. So this image here on the right is kind of my son here, is this bottom right-hand corner in the red shirt. This is the goal, is to teach our teams. We have a fairly large team, so our goal is to teach them that no one of them is more important than the other, especially when we want to accomplish the same goal. So in this scenario, they all only were allowed to touch it with their finger, and they had to, as a team, had to lower it to the ground and then pick it back up. So if they didn't communicate to each other, they didn't, one person wanted to go faster than another, then the whole thing was going to fall. So these are just that simple lessons that I'm learning as a parent, trying to instill this in my children, that I'm also turning around and then instilling it in my guys, because I ultimately don't know what their background is. We spent, probably a year and a half with the majority of them, training them up as an intern and getting an insight to who they are and how they'll fit within the team and their, kind of that adoption dating process with these guys, but not knowing necessarily what they grew up with and what they experienced. So this is just one of those key, things that I feel like I've had over the years, of everybody kind of standing with me side by side to help me grow through this process. One of the keys, I think this is a big key to leadership, is that we always want to bash people for what they don't know or what they can't do. as opposed to saying, well, I know you have more in you than what you're showing me. So this is a big like kind of parent lesson too, is that I want to get it, I want to rail my son sometimes for things that I feel like he's already learned and should know how to do. But at the end, all he really needs for me to tell him is that I know you have more in you than what I'm seeing. So for this process, these pictures are funny because this is Beatrix here with the bucket on her head trying to be really silly. But I wanted to use this as an example to things that we have for both the kids as well as for our staff that we're called to lead, is that there's a lot of times that we can get stuck in this idea that we've communicated everything that needs to be communicated for them to succeed. But yet we will have these expectations that we never bother to tell anybody. So these two pictures are kind of a nice anecdote for the freedom that comes from clear communication. Benjamin on the right being super excited to actually float, to swing on a tramway before we got on our flight, to Beatrix on the left, has these unspoken expectations on her that nobody knows, but it's like wearing this bucket on her head that she can't, you can see her arms are pinched. You can see that she's got, can't see anything about where she's going, and it doesn't look free. So these are some elements I believe, as other leaders and, soon to be leaders, as you young guys start coming up in the world, is our jobs, and Sean does this super well, is that he makes sure that everything is so clearly communicated so that they have the freedom to succeed. So that's kind of the goal, is we want them to succeed, and then we want them to have the confidence of what's on the right so that they can say, they may be willing to tell me, hey, that's the dumbest idea I've ever seen. But if they don't feel safe, they don't feel trusted, they don't have that confidence that, comes from daily, minute-to-minute interactions as, that leader, I can't think of the word, leader-employee, I guess, relationship, it's not going to help. So we spend a lot of time, I spend a lot of time kind of reading books and trying to watch through leadership things to learn. And one of the ideas that Simon Sinek had come up with is that the world culture around us, especially right now, even in COVID, is like, oh, you have to we need you to do more with less. We have no resources, everything's being cut, but we need you to do more with less training, less whatever. And for us, it'd be like telling our kids, well, you don't know this skill, but figure it out. And I was like, so that's where, Sean and I feel like our job is really to more point to the guys and say, look, you have way more talent, more ability, and more capacity than you can ever imagine. So do more with what you have, because I promise you, you're going to find that there's more. So we spend a lot of time with these young guys just kind of walking them through, like, hey, do the steps that you know until you learn those next things. And, my job is not to give you all the answers, because that would be easy, but then that means that you're just doing what it is I told you to do rather than learning for yourself, so that you can then A, teach others, but also B, that you can own it and have joy in what it is that you've designed. So going back to the mechanisms that Jivak talked about, and obviously this is before COVID, but we took all these guys out. The majority of them, like I said, are fresh out of college. They don't own a home. They don't have yards. Some of them may or may not have, worked in yard businesses over the years, but the goal here was basically to tell them, to take them out, because these are some of the products that they're being expected to design. So we took them out. We grabbed every single, hedge trimmer that existed on the market and said, let's go serve this family that I know across the street that really needs their hedges done, and let's basically just do a learn and kind of do something, side by side. This is something that we don't typically get to do a lot in corporations, is that we don't do a lot of build projects or things that we, learn, like if we're building a house, right? So you have the whole framing crew that you're all together doing a common task to a goal. Whereas like when you're doing design in a corporation or a consultancy, you might be the only person on the project. So you're doing this by yourself and not being side by side with others. So the goal here is to knit relationships and to grow experiences together. So they spent, the better part of a day sweating, which I'm sure none of them really wanted to do, because it was like 85, 95 degrees in there, even though some chose to wear jeans, which I thought was interesting, but he's also from up north, so maybe that's just the way it is up north. Yeah, I mean, basically told them like, look guys, you can't fail here. You can't make these bushes look any worse than they do right now. So let's just go after this and do our best to serve this family in a way that, you know, helps them. So again, the goal was to co-labor with these guys, to teach them that, hey, we are a team. Because I mean, we have a very large studio. We have multiple different business units within the studio. So I wanted them all to feel, one, for Sean and I, for them to know like, hey, we are a team and this is the goal we're doing. And you're not going to be the mower guy or the hedge trimmer guy or the chainsaw guy. Like, our job is to work together as a whole team and make sure that everybody's working together, you know, towards our common goal. The other mechanism through this process that the guys were learning was how to have empathy, and that's a skill that some people have innately, but it's also a skill that needs to be learned. And having that empathy, one, for each other, because I mean, they're learning like, hey, this guy on the left with the sunglasses on in front of the green cup, like, he did landscaping for most of his summer career. And none of these guys knew that. So it was funny to watch like them gravitate and start asking him more questions, and, you know, things that they just would never have gathered from them. Like, you know, and like the guy on the right, not in the light blue shirt, but the guy next to him, like, his parents owned a farm all of his life. So like, these guys, just things that they may never have learned or known in their daily interactions in the office had you not gotten them out and put them together in an environment that allowed them to collaborate. So for this moment, you know, we're trying to, you know, someone's struggling with certain things, and, you know, it would be easy for, you know, Berkeley there on the left to go ahead and grab the hedge trimmer away from everybody and say, oh, you're doing it totally wrong, do this. Instead, he's growing in that ability to be empathetic and teach, even as a young, you know, designer who's only been out of school for a year. So these are things that we are working through and trying to teach them, because it's going to benefit them when they're dealing with engineering, right? So instead of that age-old saying that engineers and designers will never get along because we just think so differently, I've learned over my 20 years that I've sat down with them and just listened to what they had to say, find out why it is that may not want to change something, because they were here till 9 o'clock the night before working on it, and they don't, you know, they're being judged based on their deadlines as opposed to based on whether the product was good or not. So helping these guys to see that process, that it's not it's a me only scenario, it's a we only scenario. That's kind of the hope. And then hopefully if they choose to head on to another career, then they'll take that into their new job, and they'll walk into an environment where that just continues to propagate and become an environment where people care about each other and care about, you know, working down the path together, as opposed to it's my way or it's the highway. So this kind of brought in that idea of do more with what you have. There's a couple more pictures that ended up missing out of this one, but this is my son. We went to Yellowstone in August, and this moment just caught me off guard. At the time, we were hiking to the top of Mount Washburn, which is the second highest point, I think, in Yellowstone, like 10,000 feet. We're both dying. I mean, we both do CrossFit, and we're fit people, but that elevation just was trashing us horribly. And for some reason, he just decided, I'm going to pick up this rock. And it's not a small rock. This is a big rock. And he's like, I'm going to carry this rock all the way to the top. And I'm like, okay, you can do that. Like, I want to tell him, like, no, that's dumb. We're already, struggling through this hike to begin with. I think I told you this, Jibak, at lunch, was that there was a European couple that, you know, didn't look super fit. So I'm kind of judging them a little bit because of my, you know, thinking my fitness is so good. They're at the very bottom of the mountain, and they just literally pass us. And we're sitting down just huffing and puffing for air because they live in that altitude, and it didn't matter for them. But the point with this one, you know, just from that parenting and even for these guys, is that we expect so much of them, because they live, most everyone on the team is responsible for their own projects. Like they from the sketch through the CAD to engineering, walking through the, you know, the production process, like they are responsible for it, whether they're an entry-level guy all the way through to, you know, lead-level guys. So helping them kind of overcome that fear in them, which we've experienced over the last year, of just I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm new at this. Help me through this process is walking them through this idea that, you know, you have more than what you believe. So this is kind of like, you know, we're maybe less than a mile from the lookout that we're going towards, and it's just insane that he just wants to carry this the whole way, and I'm wanting to pick it up for him. I'm wanting to take it from him, and these are all like those life lessons, right? As a parent, you don't want your kids to suffer. I don't want my designers to suffer. I feel like I know the answer. I could give it to them right now, and they can move faster than they possibly ever could without it. But if I do that, then I rob them of an opportunity to learn and an opportunity to grow. But like I said, as a leader, our role is to give them that space so that they can fail and fail in a way that's healthy, but then pick them back up and say, no, let's just keep going. Let's just keep going. Like, that's okay. We're going to make it, and you can make it. So luckily there's some space in what we do to allow that to happen. But, you know, at the end, you know, we always want to, you know, it's the goal, right? So he gets to the top of the mountain, sets the rock down, you know, at the guest registration area, signs his name to it, and he gets to enjoy this beautiful view that he may not have appreciated as much had he not fought and struggled to get to the top. So it was just really cool moment. And then, you know, for these guys, the same thing is like, if I rob them of that opportunity to learn, then I also rob them an opportunity to see this landscape and say, I did that. Or that product that I now see that's got 4-star reviews and people are using all the time to make their lives better, that's mine, as opposed to, oh, I couldn't do it, so I just took the ideas that I was given and made it happen. You know, nobody wants that. Everybody wants the big wins that just build that confidence over time to help these guys kind of grow in a way that they can't, because it's that challenging of your skills, it's that ability to test those skills that you have and then see those things succeed over time that just builds that confidence as a designer and as a human being, to be honest. So one of the other key factors for what Sean and I are working towards is trying to just support these guys' career. So we're in that middle management role, right? So we don't have any authority towards promotions or to the path that they choose or what they do outside of where we are as a company. So we want to make sure that they understand that we don't just want them in the company so that they keep doing more of what we don't, you know, that we used to do, that we want them to grow in such a way that, you know, should they choose to leave, that they are so well prepared for that next step that nothing but blessings will come from that for them. So that's really the role that we have as in this middle management role, is to basically just say, okay, I'm going to teach you everything I know to help you go further, faster. And just like with parenting, that's the goal, right? You want to help your kids not do the same patterns that you did as a kid or as an adult. You want to save them from the struggles that you had growing up and teach them the lessons that you never learned or that you learned the hard way. And you get mad when they walk down the same path that you did when they're like, I told you this so many times, that this is what I used to do. Let's not do this. So for these guys, that's kind of the goal, is like they say, hey, you know, I may not have experienced everything you're experiencing right now, but my goal is to teach you what it is I know so that you can get better at what you're doing. So this is the picture from the conference that GVOC was a host of, where we were able to bring kids on the last day. And my son, Benjamin, who you see here, is probably, this is a few years ago now, but his vision right now in life is he wants to be an industrial designer, and he wants to work at TTi with me, designing power tools, which is super cool. It's not something I plan on pressing, but you know, we spend, there's so many parents and so many people in life right now that, you know, we learn through, you know, American Idol and all these other things that like, oh, you can do whatever you want as long as you try hard enough. And you know, that's true to an extent. I tell people this all the time, that if you want to learn to draw, you can. It just may take you 700 drawings more than, you know, somebody who's naturally talented or gifted at it. But, you know, for our kids and for our guys, you know, my job is to make sure I don't promise anything that I can't control. So I know a lot of leaders struggle with that, especially in this middle management roles. Like, you want to promise that if you do this, if you follow this path, you will be the CEO, or you'll be a design director, or you'll be a senior in 2 years, or, you know, promising a lot of those accolades that you can't, that I can't control. So, you know, what I do for Benjamin is like I want to prepare opportunities for him to see things that I can control, right? So I can bring him to a design conference and inspire him more to do what he wants to do, or inspire him that, hey, being a doctor might be way better because you'll make a whole lot more money that way. You know? So, for these guys, our job is to say, look, we can't help with any of those other things. Our job is to push, obviously, for promotions, for you to be recognized, for you to get the cool projects, or for everybody to see you as a super talented dude or dudette. And but at the end of the day, we can control what we can teach you. We can control, how you grow as a person, so that when people want to work with you or people see you, that they don't run away. So a lot of these guys, we work hard to make sure that they get that. There's a balancing act between being, difficult and being cooperative. So spending some time with them on teaching those soft skills that we took 20 years to develop, and then I'm even still learning now as a dad of a 10-year-old and a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, trying our best to teach them how to do those things in a way that builds those relationships, and not in the idea that, hey, I'm going to get anything from it. Because if I spend my time trying to lead and serve these guys in a way that is only self-serving, it's not going to win. So as a dad and as a leader, my job is to just make sure that these guys have the tools that they need to succeed when the opportunity comes. Like in here, I think you can see this is Talk again. He's off on the side. He's got his junior designer basically presenting the flow of what it is, the inspiration boards of where it is they want to head on the design. He's totally stepped back, allowing him to own the meetings. This is something we do a lot of, is we try to put these guys into these small, manageable, things that we can kind of control, like I said, opportunities where they can lead a meeting as opposed to just waiting for someone to tell them what to do. Putting him in front of everybody and saying, look, this is the guy. He's the one that's responsible for this project. Let's, let him kind of control the pacing of these meetings when he gets the chance. So yeah. And this happens a lot. So this is Keith. This is my senior manager, and same thing. I put this picture in here because it looks like he's like, I don't want to say something. I know there's a problem here. We spend so much time as leaders, and this is okay to let these guys kind of run a little bit. Like I said, you got to build in those opportunities for failure. You got to build in the opportunities for these guys to gain the experience by maybe sometimes putting their foot in their mouth and having to walk that back. Because if they don't understand, healthy conflict, then it's going to be really difficult when they do experience a sales guy or a PM or an engineer that really just does not care about you as a person or what you think. That they need to be able to walk those moments in with the respect and to ultimately grow, one, industrial design as a career, but also that they can, again, wake up with that purpose, belonging, and protection that comes from having such a cool, creative job that we have. Yep. And so this applies like straight to my kids, is that we spend a lot of time, what I like to call those two other moments is just that shoring up of the foundations, which was funny because this is Beatrix here helping me when I'm working on the foundation of a renovation part of our house, is just giving these girls and Benjamin. I mean, I talk a lot about Benjamin, but that's because obviously he's the firstborn, so you put a lot more on him. But I also want to teach these girls that there's nothing to fear, and I want to teach them that they have even more in them, that the world will want to tell them they can't do certain things. So for her, she was helping me bang out some nails and pour some concrete, and even Lucy Jean at 2 at this point, she's running the pressure washer. These girls aren't going to be afraid to do some projects around their own home, and aren't going to feel like they need anybody necessarily to do things for them, which is great. And the same for these guys. The goal is, to help the team get to a place where they have so much confidence from these little baby steps that I didn't get to touch while they were young boys and young women, to build that confidence in them, that when they do sit in that meeting and they are under fire, that they make the right decisions in the right time. So same thing, Benjamin's just this, these are moments that I've captured, that it's just amazing to see how much this boy doesn't ever once back down from an opportunity to help and serve. And that's my goal for the guys that I work for, is that, or work with and lead, is that they don't want to miss these opportunities either. And as you guys all, leaders and non-leaders on this panel, there's no one way to do anything, that everybody can kind of send multiple paths. But I think if you want to look at the leadership path as a one-way street, the goal would be wanting to be a leader that's worth following. And through that, the goal is to serve your people in such a way that, it gives them that sense of purpose, belonging, and protection, so that when they are out with their friends, when they're out talking to other colleagues and other companies, that they just have nothing but great things to say about, the life that they're getting to live and the job that they get to do. And then lastly, probably one of the most important things that I've learned over the last 20 years is this idea of building relationships. So through that, working on more about who they are and who they're becoming than what they can do for me. Naturally, as designers, we are those people that don't like status quo. we're not meets expectations kind of people. We're typically always exceeds, because we always want to see something get better. So I feel like the more I can pour into who they are and who they're becoming, then I don't have to worry about their skills, because those will just come in time. So I think this is partly why I wanted to, I said at the beginning that the greatest gift that I got from the guys that have led me over the years at TTi is that they always cared more about me and my life and my home, more as me as a son than they ever looked at me as an employee. And that's where most of all this comes from. So, our goal is, like I said, is to teach that the empathy, so that when we are in these meetings with people, a lot of the guys I know try to get, go back to that COVID thing, is that not getting to see their other, not business units, but other facets of the company, right? They don't get to see their engineers. They don't get to see, the PMs face to face as often. So they miss this probably the most right now in COVID, is that they can't necessarily get up, go sit down next to the engineer and walk them through what they're thinking, find out what's going on, and build that rapport with these guys. Luckily, we can still call, we can still FaceTime and all that. But, without building these bridges that you get to build, you really do, hamstring your career, I think, in a lot of ways, because you forget how to, learn empathy, you forget how to listen when someone else is talking, you forget how to just, gain that trust. So this picture always is a great reminder of that if I don't choose to listen to what these other guys on the right-hand side are thinking, then whatever it is that I'm saying doesn't really matter to them. Because at the end of the day, they're just looking up, this is someone making a change that's going to cost me time and money and whatever, as opposed to, they're right, I want to make a better product. So this is like I said, this is some of those things that these guys aren't going to get to experience because of COVID and because of just the nature of travel. Is, these are our Asian counterparts. So we have a Hong Kong office and some guys that work in China. So I got the opportunity at an early age in my career to be able to go and travel, so I can share this information with these guys. But the fact that we got to sit out and break bread together and do fun things, it just helped us to kind of grow and build those relationships. So kind of the final words of wisdom here would be just, our goal as leaders is not to want to be a leader because we get to be in charge, but that we want to be a leader because we get to take care of the people that are in our charge, which is something that kind of Simon Sinek said that made sense to me, because I've had, multiple leaders within my life that have done nothing but do that exact role. That they didn't care that they were the boss. They cared more about who I was and how I'm growing within the team. So again, hoping that I can encourage a lot of you guys that are either stepping into leadership or that already are or are wanting to be leaders at some point, that you take a look at what you want and why you want to be a leader through the lens that you have lives to influence, and you have a path that is better than just getting more things done.
Awesome. Ben? That was, that's a nice photo. That was fantastic. That really, really fantastic. I'm just wondering, where were you when I was at the start of my career? I should have, somebody like you must have been at that time to take care of that. That's pretty amazing. And even I like the duality of your storytelling of you and your interns or your employees, and you and your own kids. It's a family, a real family, or it's a work family. We are all in this together now, actually, more than ever. So I really enjoyed the present. It's pretty amazing. Means the image that you showed about Benjamin taking the rock on his shoulder. How old was he at that time, or how would you say?
It was 9 at the time, or no, it was right after 10 because it was his 10th birthday. He wanted to go to Yellowstone.
That's a pretty. I see the pay. That's a pretty massive rock. Means when you said you both did CrossFit together, it's you and your son.
Yeah, so like our gym has a kid fit program, so it allows him to do CrossFit, and then we do some stuff at home, but we've also do a lot of the hero workouts that they do within CrossFit. So they'll honor a fallen hero. And one of the workouts every year on Memorial Day is Murph. So Benjamin and I have done that 7 times together now. Or
do Murph, and those are pretty extensive. Means they're pretty rigorous too. Means Murph kills you. Literally, it's pretty amazing. You and your kids should do the Spartan races. They have the actual log carry, they have the stone carry, they have the Atlas carry, and it reminded me of that. You are from Auburn. By any chance, you know the name Owen Foster?
Yep.
Okay, so I don't know that he has been a speaker a couple of times on our conversations too, and he tells an amazing story about a rock, and then I make amazing fun about him about that rock too. But it's pretty interesting what a simple act of carrying a rock can help, especially going at 10,000 feet level as such. And by the way, a very good thinking of making him wear a Ryobi color shirt for that photo. You're always thinking from all the sides as such. So that was really interesting. I like that. There are a couple of questions, I think, and we can just jump into that. And they are on the leadership also, but some of them, again, are on, I would say, your philosophy about design. How has the pandemic affected your perspective and conversations regarding the artifacts we design? That's from Paul. Especially means I do not know, means right now the world means is right now torn between the essential and the non-essentials. From that perspective, where does the tool making community lie, and how are the conversations changing because of the pandemic as such?
Well, for us, the biggest thing, I don't think it changes too much of the conversation, because the goal is we want to make products. We're making more products. Some of them are obviously tied to the pandemic, and trying to see what products we can develop that will help people do better, easier cleaning and disinfecting, because obviously we make pressure washers and sprayers and other products like that. But also, just again, going back to, it's funny when people were talked about that typical tax returns, I think they said, is like 2% of your tax return is typically spent on home improvement or DIY type products. When they did the first stimulus check, it was like, I want to say like 40 or 50% of that check went specifically to home improvement. And obviously that makes sense, right? Everybody's home, they want to add on, they want to fix things. So from that perspective of an artifact, I mean, the goal would still be to develop products that people will use and hopefully hand down. Obviously, we don't do as much of that when it comes to heirloom products. The tools that we make, a lot of times, especially in that DIY price point area, the goal is to to be able to make them so people can use them, but also if they were to get them lost or stolen, when you think about spending $800 on a DeWalt toolkit as opposed to spending $200 on a Ryobi toolkit that also does a similar task, that's the goal, right? To give them something that's a lower barrier of entry to be able to create more, be able to start a new life, be able to do different things that they need to do. I hope that answered the question. I mean, it is.
No, it does, because you are right. Means the first couple of months, like stores like Ace Hardware, they were doing some phenomenal elements because people are doing exactly what you're saying. Means if I am around the home, I need to fix something, you're always seeing that broken deck, and then finally you get to do it and save some time of commuting or other things as such. So some of those stores are doing really well, and then it, in a way, it goes on with the inventory supplied from you and your competitors as such. I like the photograph that you showed about the interns, like the way you actually not killed, but utilized two birds with one same stone, right? First of all, if there is some let's say, uh, some folks who might not be able to take care of their lawn maintenance, you're helping them. That's the greatest part. And then you're also in a way letting your young ones participate and engage into different things. And as you said, nothing can go wrong. How bad that hedge is going to look. So that's pretty interesting way to tackle that. I hope my house was near you. I would have donated all my hedges, all my lawn maintenance for you and your army of interns. Man, I wish I could save some real coin on that. Like it's I do most things myself, but some of the things it just has to be a little bit more professional grade, I would say.
Yeah.
But the elements you mentioned about the way of you accepting interns who some of them might not have a home, so not a backyard, and might not have utilized a tool if they did not do the summer job. It's a pretty interesting part because me also, I mean, I'm a hands-on guy, or I was also before I came here. So I was born in India. I came here 18 years ago. First time I bought my house, I was literally as clueless as that. Means I did not buy completely brand new tools. Means I just used, I would say, garage sales and estate sales to experiment with that. But yeah, the first of the elements I did was literally mess up with what I had over there. So it's interesting to see that kind of an elements of how people are going for first timers, or as you said, the heirloom products on the expensive turn. The element you mentioned about letting people learn by themselves means, and this might be a little bit longer question, but when you say the word co-labor, that's a pretty amazing word to use. Means, but how many times you have to step out of that mentality of having your let's say interns decide or choose, but sometimes you have to go in the commercial world and bring down some, let's say, heavy-handed and approaching like, okay, enough is enough, now we cannot risk doing that, or missing your, let's say, global product development process. How do you tackle that? Because I think, as you said, somebody's stopping to say something, but sometimes because of the forces of commercial world, you have to say something. How do you take care of that in your leadership way?
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the best parts with building these daily practices in, right? You start to build that trust. So when you have that opportunity where you have to, put down the hammer, or you have to say, no, we need to do it this way because we have a deadline to meet, and I can't let things keep rolling around. Then there's the trust that's already built through that for them to be able to say, okay, he's telling me this because he wants to make sure I succeed in this scenario. If I'm answering the question correctly, I think that's what you're asking.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. It's again a delicate element, but sometimes it's like making sure when people say fail fast, fail often, there is a kind of an area for doing that. But sometimes somebody has to just swoop in and just take the corrective measures, and how to do it before it causes any disruption in your kind of an let's say the factory setup also, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty interesting to.
The good thing for the most part is that when it comes to it, that if we've done our job right, and we've clearly communicated the expectations, then the boundaries are already set for them to hopefully not fail dramatically. But obviously there's things that we're learning that even I didn't learn as a kid. Is I never learned time management skills. So every review I've had my entire life as a designer has been, I need to get better at time management. So that ability that Sean's super talented at is if we run into a situation where there's a designer that struggles with that, it's okay. This is a skill that a shortcoming that we need to shore up.
I think time management is one of them, still might still always be up there in our learning list. I think Salvador Dali, he said, do not worry about perfection, you will never able to make it. So it's sometimes we become pretty hard on ourselves to make sure it has to go to that level of perfection, but sometimes it's not needed, or maybe you don't need to be so hard on yourselves as such. So there are moments I have to be a little bit cognizant of time. As such, you talked about plenty of things, and I can start to look at a couple of other things, because your association of leadership as stewardship, and the last element you mentioned about, it's not about being in charge, but it's about the care you take care of your own people, and that really resonates very strongly. Even the elements you mentioned about your the girl, right? Means the girls you have, means they're doing chores, tasks, they're handling tools, and that's how you do. You have to be comfortable and with the tools. Tools are just tools to help you make your life easier, and how strong they become, some self-reliant they become. That's a pretty amazing kind of an elements that we all have to be cognizant of. No matter what, my wife is not going to mow the lawn for me. It's still my task.
Yep.
Anything outside, grill, lawn moving, and all those things is still me, and I'm good with that. But that's how the stereotype has been set, at least with our age generation. But going forward, means you have to be ready with all those elements as such. So I think means we. I'm good. We are almost at 3:14. I need to make sure we end the entire session on time. But thank you once again, Ben, for an amazing presentation. And if there are any specific more questions that I think we could not, maybe I need to add one question. I forgot to ask this from Uday. You talked about, I just understand, like your mature understanding about life in general, and this question might be perfectly for you. How would you imagine the future to be different from the life we left behind? It's a little bit heavy question, but I think all the people, you can make justice for this.
This is interesting because I've had a lot of conversations with friends about it because, think about the COVID world, right? Most people, we have several guys who have just recently bought a house and they're double income, no kids. And they pretty much bought a house knowing that they would not get to spend more than a few hours in it every day before COVID. But now they're getting to live the life in the home that they've chosen, do stuff around in it and live life in it in such a way that's unique. Parents, another thing, like any of our future, our first time moms in the group, the fact that they can still hold their job, but yet be home with their kids as opposed to sending them off to daycare if they chose to continue the path of full-time employment or, being a stay-at-home mom. It's amazing to think that we're in a world now, and hopefully this will change the mindsets of a lot of corporations to be able to allow that to happen more. But I've got so many of my buddies that are like, man, I thought that I'm going to have a kid and I'm going to only get him on the weekends, or I'm only going to get him for an hour. I'm so blessed right now, and it's so cool that I can be home. I'm holding my newborn baby while I'm on a call talking about finances. And just how awesome is that, that we've never had that experience before.
And that's the attitude that we have to embrace and take care of, and just make the best while the sun shines, and make the hay while the sun shines. So that's pretty amazing. I like that. Well, once again, I think we have to pause our discussion over here. We can continue as we go forward. But thank you again, Ben, for your time, and we will be in touch. Feel free to
Thank you for having me.
Mute yourself, and we will be welcoming our next speaker in 1 minute. Awesome, folks. That was Ben for us. I think it was an amazing element of the leadership. It's pretty difficult to break down the facets of leadership. And I think one thing that came to my mind as he was explaining about the virtues or the attributes of being a leader is, I think what Mahatma Gandhi said is, and it's his quote, I'm still might be paraphrasing a little bit. Mahatma Gandhi said, "There goes my people. I have to follow them because I am their leader." It's kind of counterintuitive, but it's literally the way to understand what are their needs, their wants, their desires, their life purpose, and then, if at all, how you can channel that through what you can offer through the company or through as a family as such.